Oh, wow. Hello, hello, hello. I am very obnoxiously, absolutely delighted to be here with you all today. So, if we haven't met already, not a problem. I'm Jess. I'm one of the three instructors on the Bad Website Club. And if you're just joining us now, everything's fine. So, we're on our second day, third, we're on our third day of doing course material. Oh, I have an echo. Let me go ahead and fix that. I'm so sorry. Hmm. Hmm. I'll go ahead and see if I can't get that straightened out. My effusive apologies. Hmm. Hmm. Let's see if that clears it up. My, again, ongoing apologies. Just yell at me in the chat if anything else is wrong with the audio, and I will magically try and fix it. So, we're working on the Bad Website Club, which is a free 10-week boot camp. And I'm going to go ahead and let our learners tell me why. For folks who are just joining us for the first time, having a web development boot camp called the Bad Website Club seems a little weird because we're going to make a lot of bad websites. For folks who've already been learning with us a little bit, why do you think we're focusing on doing bad websites instead of doing perfect or beautiful or magical websites right out of the box? I'll let y'all go ahead and tell us about it while I take a look at what we've asked you to take a look at for solo work, and we're just going to get started. We're on part 2 of HTML. Yeah, we're going to come all the way down. I should also mention all of our illustrations were done by an incredibly talented designer named Kiri. I'll try and dig out a link to her stuff. Just absolutely fantastic. I can't say enough nice things. I believe she's on the main part of our webpage. A link, which is, if we recall correctly, an anchor tag with a ref attribute set to the URL or the address of her website. Oh, thank you very much. We've got Etta backstage helping all of us out. So if you wanted to check it out, kirionearth.com is where you can see the designer. And I've asked the learners, hey, why are we making bad websites? And we've got a lot of really, really correct answers. It's less intimidating. So something you'll hear me say a lot is the whole world is hard. The whole world is scary right now. And learning to be a programmer, learning to be a web developer is hard, but we're not going to have a hard time right now. This is another one say, hey, we're going to screw a lot of things up right now, but to learn, to be able to do beautiful websites or great websites later on. We want to take the pressure off and have a fun, silly little time. Yeah. And we if you do it right the first time, you don't get that friction to really learn and experiment. And yeah, Deb, in the beginning, we're not even going to worry about doing it right. We're just going to worry about getting things done and trying. And again, the whole world is hard right now. Why not have a relaxing little time as we do this? So we've asked you to do some more debugging, and then we've got a bunch more reading. All right, so today, during this session, we'll walk through the debugging. Cool. And I've asked you all to take your own notes. Hey, and oh gosh, somebody else said, do you know what? Another reason we wanted to call it the Bad Website Club, and this is absolutely correct. We wanted to communicate that we want you to have a fun little time. We're just here to experiment. We're just here to have a silly time. Oh, heck, hello. Yeah. So we're going to talk through the debugging. We're going to review some of our notes and we're going to chat about it. One of the really hard things, I'm sorry that there are a lot of hard things behind this 10-week boot camp, is that things are going to go faster and faster and harder as we go. So the first week, a chiller little time. But remember, if you need more time, there are no hard deadlines. We're going to go pretty fast for 10 weeks, but your progress will stay saved in Free Code Camp. So after the session, we're going to ask you to do 2 different projects, work through the cat photo app. You know what? We'll cover this later. For now, here are my notes. And one thing I would ask is, please, I've asked you to take your own notes. if you have any questions about these sections, anything else we've taken a look at, or any not rude questions about the web generally, chuck them into the chat and we'll either get to them as we're discussing this, or we'll get to them all in a block at the end. And really important, if you have something in your notes that I don't have, maybe I missed something, maybe you went and looked something up that I didn't dig into, please, please, please tell me about them. Everybody's notes are different. Y'all are going to have notes that are going to be very different. Well, I hope they're going to be very different from mine. Let's dig in. So we've asked you to work on this debugging a pet adoption page. Unsurprisingly, I am really into pet adoption. I have 3 adopted very ugly cats. So I think my icebreaker question for today is, what's your favorite animal? Yeah, what's your favorite animal? If you were going to make an adoption site for anything or a fan site for um, an animal, what's your favorite one? Oh, and we've got a really good process question. So saying, hey, I'm taking my notes. I'm doing a good job. I bet y'all are doing a good job. Should I be sending my notes in to Discord? If you really, really wanted to, and you wanted to share them, you could absolutely include a link to your notes in Discord. That is not even a problem. But there's no obligation to. The reason we ask you to take notes is we genuinely believe that these are really useful for learning. I'm never going to check your notes. Nobody else is ever going to check your notes. It's absolutely your choice. Thank you very much for asking that. So let's dig into my notes, which may be different than yours. And in debugging the pet adoption page, we're going to need to remember that the anchor tag is what we need to use to link to another page on our website or to another website. And we need to include that ref attribute in order to throw that anchor to the other page or site. And we also need to remember that images are void elements. Somebody who was here yesterday, or somebody who did the reading, remind me what a void element is. And the void element image element needs to have the source attribute, src, in order to tell your browser the URL, the address, to look for the value of that image. Let's jump over here to the pet adoption page. And again, we're going to do a little bit more hand holding this time. We're going to do less and less of these steps with you throughout the course because it's really important for you to be doing them on your own. So favorite animals. Someone is saying Blink is their favorite animal. And for context, Blink is one of my very silly looking rescue cats. And also, it used to be the name of an HTML element that doesn't exist anymore. So it's deprecated. We've got a cat fan. We've got a cat fan. We've got a cat fan. We've got somebody who's saying, I love wolves and coyotes and snakes and big cats. Cat. Okay, we got a lot of. Oh, we got a dog fan. Love it. Wombats fan. Solid, solid little guys. Solid big guys. Iguanas. Blue damselfishes is a favorite animal. Okay, we've got a ton of really, really interesting animals that folks love. Lucy's making a fantastic point to say when we're talking about a void element, that element doesn't have to have a closing tag. Stunning. Everything's fine. So let's take a look. The first thing we should do is read the instructions. Our job is to fix all of the errors on this pet adoption page. So we take a look at it. Welcome to XYZ Pet Adoption. Consider adopting a pet. We have cats, dogs, rabbits, and more. Oh, I can't see their cats. Oh, I can't visit their cats page. And I can't visit their dogs page. So the user stories should tell us a little bit more about what's broken. Sally wants to use an image of some cats. That's what I thought CR Cats would do. But something is broken with the syntax. We're going to need to fix the following image element. And this is one thing we took a look at. Ref. So the image, IMG's image element, what is ref in here? It's not an element within the element. Can you remember what the term was? Oh, heck, it's right here. Replace the ref attribute with the correct attribute for the image source. Replace the ATT attribute with the correct attribute representing short descriptive text for images. That short descriptive text, can I get somebody to tell me in the chat what, it's not ATT text, but if I want an image to include text describing the image, what's that text called? Please, if that's not a bother. And we're going to see here our image, that ref we've already been told has to change. We've already told in our user story this ATT is wrong, not a problem. But it's also saying, hey, remove this closing tag because an image element is a void element. It doesn't have closing tags. We've got a bunch of folks chiming in and saying, hey, Jess, it's not an ATT attribute, it's an ALT. So thank you very much. I'm going to change that right now. The alt, and I think as soon as we change, so our image is still broken, and that's not a problem because it's a little bit less broken. With debugging, we're just taking little tiny steps to make our web world a little tiny less broken with each time. That's not a problem. I'm not going to change the rest of this until we should always read all of our user stories and tests first. Sally wants to make some links. That's what I thought as well. Visit Cat's page. That feels like that should be a link, isn't it? An anchor element. And I'm really stressing that links are anchor elements because we're going to learn about a different type of link in just a minute, after this exercise. So Sally wants to use some links, but the links are not working correctly. There's something wrong with the syntax. So we have A and then src, a source attribute. So we don't use a source attribute with a link. Can somebody who's not me? Oh gosh, thank you so much, Lucy. Lucy's like, yes. We want to add the ref attribute here. Stunning. Thank you very much. And I'm going to go ahead and I said you should read all the instructions first, but heck. Let's go ahead and change those. And as soon as we change the src to ref, it means that these links work. Oh, everything's fine. It's really easy to put in the wrong attribute or forget the syntax for an HTML element. What do we do when we don't know what we're doing? Or what do we do when there's a bug? We read all of the instructions and read our code carefully. We search for an answer online or in the free code camp forums. And then I like to encourage you, if you have the time and energy, to experiment a little bit, to get weird. And if you're still stuck, come into Discord, come somewhere else, and just ask. Just ask. Asking can feel weird. So we've got some tests here. And when we check our code, it'll run our tests. But it's not going to work every time. Yeah. Oh, gosh, Matthew, this is a really good question. I'm going to save this and come back to it in just a second, because that is so good. I should have had that in my notes. So we're going to test for our image attribute having an src element attribute instead of ref. Our image element should have an alt attribute instead of att, which y'all have already helped me with. My image tag should not have my image element should not have a closing tag. And the A elements should have ref. The anchor element should have ref attributes instead of src, which we've just done. And this one again. So if we're going to check our code, some of these, we're getting a little hint to say, hey, you haven't fixed your image element yet, but we're cool. We've got some of these passing. And I love this. So Matthew, thank you. This is a really good kind of advanced question. And I'm going to hide my instructions for a second. I'm going to hide my preview for a second. And I'm going to come up to this link. And Matthew was saying, hey, Jess, because we're on a first name basis with all of y'all. What's going on with this link? So we've talked about how links should include a URL. So this is sort of the syntax for a link before anything goes in it. And I'm going to add some anchor text. This is bad anchor text because it doesn't describe anything. But One thing that can be a little bit difficult is, One thing that can be a little bit difficult is when we're working in this tutorial environment, it's abstracting away, it's simplifying a lot of things that are kind of difficult to understand as a beginner. And some of these things are really useful. So we talked on Monday a little bit about how everything that makes up your website, the individual pages, the images, the style sheets, which we'll learn about later, all of these are files saved in folders or directories. Folders aren't always directories, but for this course, folders and directories are conceptually the same thing. If I'm linking to, hang on, let's come all the way to the bottom. So let's pretend I'm writing HTML in my index.html file. Oh gosh, we haven't talked about this yet, and this will show up in class in a minute. But for the website, but you know what? I'll do my website. So down here, we're not making a pet adoption page anymore. Don't worry about it. We'll come back to it. Let's just pretend that I'm in my index.html file in the root directory, the home folder, the topmost folder for my website, jessica.tech. So my root directory is the parent folder. And let's have 3 files in here. Index.html. And this is my home page. So if you come to jessica.tech or freecodecamp.com, the first HTML file it will show you is the index.html. You don't have to add anything else. And let's say that there's another HTML file in here. So these are all the files in my root directory, the parent folder. This is a file. I've got a file, contact.html. That's boring. This is a page with contact information. And then I've got, just a preview of styles.css. And well, that would be in my root directory, but we're not too worried about that right now. Okay, so I'm writing HTML in my index.html file. But here's the other files that are in the shared folder, either on my computer as I develop it or on my hosting provider on a server. And a server is just a computer, usually that you pay money to have someone run, that serves your files to your users' browsers. So writing in my index.html file, if I wanted to make a link to if I wanted to, oh gosh, somebody's pointing out that I made a typo. So the root directory, we're in our parent folder, and here's some ones we have. So here is a link to Edda's webpage. Thank you very much. I would need to include all of the URL, all of that web address. So https://eddaerin.com. And I need, oh gosh, this isn't going to show up at all because I need to have that anchor text here. Let's come to the bottom. Let's make this a paragraph. So we're writing proper HTML. Okay. So here's a link to Edda's webpage. I've had to write out this whole domain because we're going to a different website. I need to give it a very exact address. My website doesn't know where Edda lives. If I just said, here's a link to Edda's website, index.html, that's not going to work at all. Even though I am linking to the index.html file on Edda's website, if I say go to this file, my website is going to say, oh, do you mean the index.html file in my own root directory? That's not going to work at all. But if I want to give my website, here is my contact page. If I want to give my website instructions to link to somewhere within the same directory, what I'm really kind of doing is, oh gosh, I'm sorry, you all can't see the bottom of the example. Oh, heck. How's that? My ongoing apologies. Thank you. So when I'm linking to an external website, I need to include all of the address because my website doesn't know what's going on. I can't say go get and just give it a part of the address because it doesn't know where Edda lives on the web. But if I'm saying, hey, my index.html file within my root directory, I want you to go to my contact page. I can say this slash stay in the same folder and get a link to the contact.html. I could say https // jessica.tech/contact.html. I could do that. That's correct. That's okay. I think that should. Oh, nice. I do have a contact page. I think that like both of these are correct. Both of these work, but if I'm linking to a file in the same root directory, I can just go ahead and say, you know that this is on the jessica.tech domain. We don't have to go anywhere else. You can find this file somewhere else in the same directory. Yeah, we're gonna cover this a couple more times, and I massively appreciate this. This is really complex behavior, and it's complex behavior that gets kind of more difficult to understand because we're doing all of our development for a little while within this tutorial environment, which kind of abstracts away, kind of hides the complexity of files. And we've dropped in the chat some more examples on absolute versus relative file paths. Oh, thank you both very much. That's so useful to get access. Okay, hang on. Back on track. Okay, let's check our user stories. Sally wants to use an image of some cats. We need to fix our image element because ref goes with an anchor tag. We can do that. Oops, I'm going to squish my preview. I'm going to come, we've got our image, and that should be a source instead. And as soon as we say, hey, this URL, this address of where we're going is now correct, we can see these very soft little cat babies. And the same way, if this cats.jpg, if this was in the same root directory, if this was in the same path, the same folder as my index, I could delete everything except for cats.jpg. Hmm. So I see another really, really good one. Here's another question. So in the example we're looking at, how is the file name contact related to the URL slug? This is so, so good. Thank you. So by what we mean in the URL slug is, let me check. Fantastic. And I'm only using my website because I know there's nothing rude on it. So this is my website that I need to redo. And what we talk about with URL slug is if I click on contact, the URL slug, the URL that shows is jessica.tech/contact. And what happens here is the contact.html file becomes the name, the URL slug after a slash. And you can wind up with multiple different levels. So if I had a, I'm very sorry. I'm going to, we can get much more. Oh gosh. Birmingham is the best city in England, by the way. That's not the main point. So the name of your HTML file is going to be shown in the URL, the address of your website. So having one that's not rude is really helpful, but also having one that carries semantic meaning. And we covered this a little bit on Monday, yeah, with the having good file names for your HTML. You know what? I've been chatting for a little minute, so I've forgotten what we need to fix to move on. And I massively appreciate all of y'all asking. Like, a lot of these are really conceptually difficult. One other thing I'd ask really politely is if you have any points during this course where you're like, this didn't make sense, or this question was really, really important to me, you can also message me on Discord, and I'm going to go ahead and collect feedback back for the Free Code Camp team. Etta, if I could ask you very, very nicely to save the edit. Y'all can't see it, but Etta is like nodding where she's like, Jess, I know, Jess. She looks fabulous backstage. Very, very cute, very noble, very collected. Oop. I am going to click this down for a minute to try and force my camera to refocus. Mm, mm, mm. You know what? She'll focus when she wants to. We've got folks being mean to Birmingham, and that, no, 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 no. Birmingham, so Birmingham's a city in the UK. I have betrayed all my values and moved away from it, but I am a big fan of the city. Oh gosh, do you know what? If it's not rude, I don't want to ask anybody anything too personal, but for folks who are comfortable talking about where they're from, what's something you really, really love about where you live? Sorry, I'm very nosy. That's very off track. So number 3, one of these tests that don't yet pass is our image element needs to be a void element. We need to get rid of, ha ha ha, right here we can see our closing image tag, and a closing image tag doesn't exist. We're gonna get rid of it. We're gonna check our code. Oh gosh, that's it. It works. Our code passes. We are 100% complete on this. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna dive into looking at a little bit of theory, and then I'm actually going to turn y'all loose because you have a ton of solo work between today and tomorrow. Fantastic. So, ha 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 ha. Sorry to sound evil. I'm going to come back to my notes because what we're going to be talking about is the link element in HTML. And you could very, very rightly, you could very correctly say, Jess, we already learned about the link element. It's the anchor element, duh. I am so sorry. The anchor element is the element you use to make links that are visible to your users on your website. The link element sounds like it should be the exact same thing. Ha 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 ha. It's not. But it's okay. It's a little confusing. We'll forget sometimes. And having to look stuff up sometimes or getting it wrong sometimes can't hurt us. So a link element sounds like it should be the same thing as an anchor element, but it's not. What an anchor element is, is an anchor element creates a link that is visible to your user. Your user can see the link, and we've got a link right here, understanding the HTML bullet. This is a very long link, but as a user, I can see it. And if you go to this website, you can see this as well. We're going to learn about this in a minute, but the anchor elements, any user visible part of your website, should be written in the body section of your website. And we're going to get there in a minute, in just a minute. I promise. Many things are wrong, but this is not wrong. I'm often wrong, but this can't hurt us. What the link elements do instead of an anchor ref connecting us to another page, another website, or another section of our website, what a link element does is it connects your HTML file to a resource. And this is going to be super, super confusing because the thing that makes the most sense, if I say, hey, the best example of this is when we connect a CSS style sheet. And we haven't learned about CSS yet. That's okay. The things we don't know can't hurt us yet. But your HTML file only knows about things you tell it about. What the link element does is it tells it and says, hey, I've got a resource for you, and I'd like you to include this in how you show my website to users. And this is still going to sound really, really vague. This is going to make more and more sense as we play with this. So users won't see links that you make with the link element. This link element needs a rel attribute. And the rel attribute is telling the browser, hey, I'm going to go ahead and make a link, and here's what kind of link it is. We're going to learn about CSS in a little while, but I just want to preview some CSS concepts that are going to make it easier when we do get there. HTML is a language. CSS is a language. We know we use HTML for the content of our web page, or the link element doesn't feel like content, does it? An anchor element, that's content, I can see it. The link element is really the other part of what HTML does. HTML, remember, that creates the structure and the content of a web page. So the link element is part of the structure. Nice. HTML is over here. It's the structure and content of our website. When we get to CSS, it's going to add styling rules. It's going to go ahead and change how our HTML is displayed in the browser. We've talked about, and we had a really good question that had us looking at files a little bit more. HTML is written in HTML files with .html, whereas CSS is written in a separate file with a .css file type. Let's, where is there a good way for me to find? Actually, Etta, do you remember where the interactive editor is on FreeCodeCamp for web? If you're able to find that, can I grab a link to it in the instructor chat? We have a secret instructor chat where we talk about how cute, cool, and nice you are. But I'm gonna do a little bit of look with this in the interactive editor. CSS is written in a separate file type, and these are called style sheets. The problem is that when you create an HTML file, it doesn't even know. So if you have an index.html file in your root directory, and you have a CSS file in there, you might say, I'm done. I have my HTML file, I have my CSS file, nothing is wrong. Well, your HTML isn't that smart. It doesn't know to get the CSS file and apply the rules unless you tell it it exists. And that's what these link elements are doing. Hmm. Oh, this is really, really useful. We've got someone saying, okay, sure. This is somebody who I hope is saying, yes, I'm with you. I believe you that the link element is used to link your HTML file to resources it needs. But the image element is also linking to a resource, and that could be within the same root directory, or that could be on a different website. Why doesn't the image element require using link? So the first reason is these are two separate elements. So we can't really squidge two elements together like this. Image is doing her own thing, link is doing her own thing, and they're separate elements. But the big one is link. And don't worry, we haven't gotten there yet, so I'm just excited to be previewing this. The link is part of the metadata, and we'll talk about it in a second. So links create links that browsers use to have this information, but they're not going to get shown to your users. The image tag needs a source SRC attribute, and that's going to be, oh gosh, Dan says this way better than me. Thank you. Okay, so Dan, I'm going to get you to teach this class next time. Thank you. Links are made to connect structural things to your HTML. Links are telling browsers, hey, here's some extra information you need to process this website. Whereas image is going to be part of our HTML content. And those are really, really different. So everything in the, we'll get to it in a second. Links live in the head of your HTML structure, and all the stuff that goes in there, you're writing for browsers or you're writing for machines to read, not people. Yeah, this will sound weird. I promise. I hopefully promise it will feel less weird with time. So the last thing I said, your HTML file doesn't even know a CSS file exists until you tell it about it using the link element in the header of your HTML file that links to the name of that CSS file. Jess, what does that mean? So here, you know what? I don't love this. Let's go ahead and oh, this is actually really useful. Sorry, you can't see what I'm doing. I'm going to hold on to this for just a second and come back. That sounds really vague. That sounds really mean. Let's talk through this a little bit, and it won't make any sense, but that's okay. And then we're going to go through the boilerplate, and it kind of won't make any sense. But what I'm going to ask y'all to remind me is, Jess, let's look at how does a link element work and what does it change? And how does a anchor element work and how does it? I'm going to make a note just so I keep up with this. In Sandbox, compare link and anchor. All right, we're going to get there. I promise. Everything's terrible, but this can't hurt us. I mean, it could, but I'd be surprised. So I don't love that we have this a little bit out of context. We're just going to look at this really, really briefly because this isn't going to make a ton of sense yet. And that's okay. We're going to preview some things that we're going to get in the boilerplate. Yeah, we've got the head, and this is a parent element. And the children element that live in here are these metas which we haven't learned about at all yet. Don't worry. Our title, and that's going to be the title of our website that shows in the address bar. And then we've got an example of this link. Link rel equals style sheet. And let's talk about what this one's doing. So here we're saying, I'm going to start my link element. Does anybody notice anything unusual or anything a little bit non-standard about the link element? Maybe what does the link element have in common with the image element? So here we've got a link element, we're starting it, and the rel is equal to style sheet. So I'm saying to the browser who's coming to read this, hey, I've got a link element for you. Just to let you know, the relation that this resource I have for you is that it's going to be a style sheet. When you get this resource, go ahead and please treat it like a style sheet. And here we've got a href. We're still throwing. Actually, here it feels more like pulling. We're pulling that in. Still a href sound, a sound of great effort. And here's where it lives. And this is where I really, really appreciate this. Oh gosh, thank you so much. We've got everybody. When I was like, hey, what's special about, what's non-standard about link? Everybody just all at times like void, void, void. It's a void element. We do not have a closing on here, a closing tag. So here I'm saying, here's a link element. All right. Here's what this link element's doing. I'm going to be giving you a style sheet. And the href here is telling you, go to the root directory, yeah, and then look for a file with the name styles.cs. Get that file, and please use that if that's okay. So we've talked a lot about CSS, and that we can take a CSS style sheet and bring in the rules for styling our HTML. But we can also use the link tag to bring in other external resources. And that sounds weird. As an example, fonts. A font is the typeface that's very old-fashioned. As a little secret, when I am not in front of a computer, I'm learning bookbinding and doing some printing. So I'm very into typefaces and fonts right now. Fonts, said here that they transform the way the text on your web page is displayed, but really they're just sort of it's a good way to explain it. If anybody has a better way to just explain a font to me, I will use it in every future class. A font is a font. A font is the typeface and style set for text on your web page or text on different types of your web page. And it doesn't have to be on a web page. Fonts can be in a text word processing program like Word or Google Docs or Office Libre or LibreOffice. Gosh, sorry. Fonts, when you want to use them on your web page, these are files as well. These digital typefaces are files. You could save these files to your folder that has your HTML and CSS file for your website. But a lot of people go and get a font file from a few common sources on the web and link to them. Google, the fonts.google.com is where a lot of people will import their fonts from. Or like, so here we've got the link. Okay, not a problem. I mean, a little problem. Everything's scary and hard, but this can't hurt us. Oh, that's a good question. I'm going to get to it for a second. I'm so sorry. So we're doing another link, and the rel here, the relationship is pre-connect. A pre-connect is not a style sheet. Why does this not say font? What are we doing here? I don't love this. When we needed CSS, the relationship is a style sheet. Okay, but here, the relationship is its pre-connect. We'll look at it in a second, I promise. It's not as chill as you want it to be and easy to remember a style sheet, but this is for a reason. And here the href, where we're pulling in this external resource from, is https:// fonts.googleapis.com. And here, we've actually included 3 different links to bring in the Google font called Playwright Cuba. This first one saying, I want you to go to fonts.googleapis.com. I want you to check fonts.gstatic.com. And here we've got a very specific address. Link href https fonts.googleapis.com css2 family playwright. Ooh, just a bunch of letters, which you will almost always copy and paste over. And here when we say, so these first two, pre-connect, the rel and rel, and here the rel is style sheet. That is quite stressful. Oh gosh, I always hate to always link to Google. So thank you very much. I imagine this was Carmen behind the scenes saying, hey, you could go to fonts.bunny.net, which I haven't used before, but has a absolutely recklessly adorable name. Oh gosh, that was Edda. Edda, I'm sorry to give away your credit. I'm always mean. So this feels weird. Google fonts are really commonly used, and they're free and open source custom fonts. So when you go to Font Bunny, which again is just the cutest name in the world, or when you go to Google Fonts, if you must, it will give you what to copy and paste in to be able to use those. Here, pre-connect as the rel attribute is saying, hey, do you know what? Before we do other stuff on this website, can you go ahead and try and connect to this href, this URL, to see if you can get the information I need for this font early. And the reason you use pre-connect is that websites take a little minute to load. They used to take a minute, but they'll take microseconds to load these days. And we're saying, hey, I'm going to be wanting to use this font. Please try and connect to that now to speed up that loading time. I'm going to come all the way back here because there's one more that we're looking at here. Oh, I like this. Lucy's saying, hey, do you know what? We could talk about the font as sort of the feeling or the flavor that it gives your text. Like Time New Roman is a popular font. It's a formal and classic, whereas Arial communicates friendly and readable. So fonts give us some style without getting into CSS yet. Oh gosh, it's kind of how our characters are dressed. Oh, that's charming. Oh, thank you. Oh gosh. So I have a couple little questions that might be really useful in here. A website, don't worry, even if you did create it. So Laura's saying, I've got a website that they're maintaining that uses rel DNS prefetch for loading Google Fonts. Is that, is it better than pre-connect? Or does it, do you know what? I'm not sure. And this seems like a very specific question. So if it's not rude, I'm going to save this for the end, partially so I can do a little searching myself and try and understand a bit better, unless somebody wants to cheat and tell me about it in the instructor chat. Oh, so great. This is such a good question. So we've got somebody asking, is it Stefania? Beautiful name. Saying, hey, this rel word style sheet, is that convention? Is that preset? Do I have to use it? Or could I put website style as the rel instead of style sheet? I am durably sorry to tell you that we have endless space for creativity when we make things on the web, but we do not have endless creativity in what keywords we're allowed or what values we can pass into the rel attribute here. For style sheets, you got to do style sheets. I'm sorry. So there's just a couple different sort of keywords that work for this. All right. So I'm going to come back to, gosh, that. I'm going to come in here. We've got one more link that we're going to talk about right now, and then we're going to learn about some more things later. Another link option is we can link to an icon or a favicon. These are both kind of the same thing. And an icon or a favicon is the cute or boring is the small image that will be displayed in a browser tab next to your web page's title if you choose to include it. If you go to any Wikipedia article, most modern browsers, before it shows you the title of that page in your browser tab, will show you a white box with a black W written in it. And that's your icon. Oh, sorry, it is almost dinner time for my terrible cats, so we're going to have a small amount of screaming. Thank you, Miss Baby. So, where are we? Where are we? Oh, not boilerplate, not yet. Favicon is the little icon. I said the Wikipedia thing. And here I had some questions I added myself. So this theory talks about the header, and it does it kind of before we've learned about the boilerplate structure. That's a little stressful. What's a header about anyway? Oh, yes, baby. Adam, please, come on. You're causing a scene, miss. Come on. Just go in the other room, please. And here I've got a question to kind of preview to say, hey, I know the link element definitely works with CSS style sheets, icons, and font files. I might want to spend some time searching for, are there other things that my link element can link to? Fantastic. Oh gosh, and we had this really, really good question. So, Laura said, hey, I didn't make this website, but they've got a website that they're maintaining that uses rel DNS prefetch for loading tabs. Is pre-connect better or does it depend? Oh, hello, Miss Baby, do you know the answer? Thank you, Aria. And Carmen was helpful enough. I was going to look this up because I wasn't feeling super confident about it. But where are we? Carmen's like, hey, I got you. DNS prefetch and pre-connect are different. DNS prefetch will do some additional fancy things to connect faster, but pre-connect is strict. It says, hey, I need you to go and get this font before you do anything else. So here, pre-connect is like, hold up, we're not taking this car any further until you prefetch this thing. Whereas DNS, until you pre-connect and get me this. Whereas DNS prefetch sounds quite a bit more flexible. Thank you so much. That was such a good question. Got somebody else saying, hey, why does my chat seem to be out of sync with the feed? I'm so sorry. That there can be delays due to a whole bunch of different issues. Because computers are a little bit cursed is probably what I'm going to guess. I'm so sorry. We've got somebody saying pre-connect can be like, hang on. We're not moving on until you get me this. Stunning. Okay, so these are questions I think I learned. Oh gosh, where am I? Here are questions I've written in my notes. Just like, I think a learner would have these questions at the stage, but y'all might have different questions and you can go ahead and throw them in anytime. Next, we are going to learn about HTML boilerplate, and I'm really excited to do this because this is going to give us a lot of the structure I think is going to be really useful. So HTML boilerplate, it's a weird way to say this is the boring part of your website that is almost always the same. Aria, please, miss. So boilerplate is code that you repeat in all of your HTML files, and it does a couple important things. Because it's almost always the same code every time, most people copy and paste it into your HTML files when they start. Some IDEs, integrated development environment. When you say, make me a new HTML file, it'll just give you your boilerplate. And I really like that. So I'm going to come in here and we're going to look at this tab instead. And this is showing me some HTML boilerplate. And what I'm going to, thank you, Aria. What I'm going to do is, I am very, very sorry. I don't lock them out because it's more distracting when they scream. I'm going to copy and paste this over because nobody loves to write boilerplate every time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I've got, can we see this okay? A different way to look at, I'm going to make you smaller. We've got a different way to look at writing HTML in our browser. I'm using Code Sandbox and they're really nice. And I like this because it's showing us the different files as well. We've got our index.html, we've got our package.json, which we will talk about maybe at the end of the course, but we're going to abstract this away. We've talked about things that are right now problems to learn, things that are next week problems. This is an end of the course problem. Here, I don't love this. We don't have our boilerplate. Oh, gosh, I need to sign in. My apologies. I am taking my own sweet time and making y'all have a stressful little day. Okay, so I'm logged in. Oh, come on. Stop that. Everything is stressful, but everything's okay. Here, I don't need this div. What I do need is I need, hmm. Thank you for updating Code Sandbox. I didn't ask for that. How can I bring my preview back? Thank you, Miss Baby. I don't think you're helping. Oh, gosh. So I'm very sorry that it looks like Code Sandbox is having a problem. This is one of my very, very favorite web development projects is when you've got something that's a little bit broken, it means sometimes you just don't have to worry too much. All right. We're going to create a new sandbox. Gosh, okay, not a problem. In that case, Code Sandbox just isn't working very well right now. So we're going to talk through the basic parts of this. Ha ha ha. I've got my beloved compatriots giving me a different editor behind the scenes. Can we all see this okay? Yeah, stunning. I'm using, and I'll grab this, and we've had, so I'm using just an in-browser HTML editor again. And everybody's yelling their favorite ones at me. I know. I just needed one where I didn't need to faff about logging in again. And here, I'm gonna make the font super hecking big, maybe less big. I'm gonna go ahead and paste in the boilerplate. Oh heck, I'm gonna paste in the domain name again. I'm gonna grab from here, this is all of our boilerplate. And I'm gonna come back to my editor. I'm gonna paste this in. Nice. This, very helpfully, has done nothing in our preview. Can anybody tell me why I can't see anything? This preview tab, completely blank. Ha 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 ha. And while we get ready to do that, I'm going to talk to you about what's going on in each of the lines of this boilerplate. So when we first start our HTML file, the first thing we need to do is we need to tell a browser, hey, nice to meet you. It doesn't actually say nice to meet you, but hello, browser. The document you're accessing is HTML. So this angle brackets exclamation point dot type HTML is telling the browser, hey, this is HTML, and what version of HTML we're using. HTML versions these days are always going to just say HTML. In the past, it kind of mattered. And here, starting on line 2 and going until the end of the line, we're opening an HTML element. And you might think that's weird. Say, well, we're all writing HTML, but HTML is sort of the parent element of all of the rest of the HTML you're going to write on your page. Cool. We're going to write every single line of our HTML right here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to have a section for our head. And we talked about this a little bit, but our head is going to contain, oh yeah, I asked a minute ago, why don't we see anything on this preview? And that's because there's no content yet that's user visible. There's nothing in the body. Thank you so much. So one thing I'll note, the HTML will always have, the language here is set to EN. That's not always going to be the same. You're not always going to be, I hope not everybody is always going to be making English websites. How boring, how terrible, how heartbreaking. I think that too much of the web is in just a couple languages. Please, 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 if I can lightly nag you about anything, please make beautiful, silly websites that sound like you and look like what's in your heart. I hate to pick on folks, but Carmen's just like, yes, ES_CL. Can anybody guess what language that's going to be? Because it's a language and a country dialect code. But if anybody can guess what ES_CL is, and let's say, cool. I'm gonna have to get some help because let's say that this website isn't in English. It is in ES.CL. Yeah. Chilean Spanish. Thank you, Miss Baby. So here, what we've got is our head. And our head comes from here to here. And it's got all of the metadata. And metadata is the information we're giving a computer to read or a machine to read. And here, the machine is our browser or our user's browser. And we're saying, hey, I need a meta tag where you set the character set. And we're going to talk about that next. Not a problem. Also, I'm going to set another meta element. And here, I'm going to set the name attribute to viewport. The content attribute is going to be set to width equals device hyphen width, and the initial scale 1.0. Say, oh gosh, that's such a good question. And hang on, these are very good questions. I'll get them in just a second. So Meta can share a couple of different pieces of information, but this viewport, what we're doing is saying, hey, the viewport is the space the user is going to look at your website on, the size of the window or the size of the screen. And here I'm saying, make it as wide as you have space for. So go ahead and if we're on a phone, make it as wide as the phone. Or if we're in a window, a browser window on top, make it as wide as you can go. But then, please, when you're looking at the vertical width, keep that scale 1 to 0. So here we're saying, when you're presenting this in the viewport, don't warp it so it's stretched weird. Oh gosh, actually, I'm gonna get so sidetracked here. Y'all, what are there like, we're doing this course in English, which I don't always love. Feels very reductive to just do it in English. What other language, brag on it. What other languages can y'all speak? I am very bad at languages, but brag all the time. Here, we've got the title, free code. we're going to do a different title. So I'm making a website for Aria, who's my worst cat. She's my worst cat right now. And here I'm linking to the style sheet, styles.css. Okay. This is all the information that I have that's metadata right now. So I'm going to close my head element. If I have other stuff that needs to go in there, I can add it later. It's not a problem. And here in the body, this is where I would add, let's indent in. It's kind of difficult. Let's add an H1. A paragraph element. How to be the worst cat. Fantastic. So here, we've got our boilerplate, and what we've done is we've copied and pasted this over, and we've started adding some additional content in here. I am so excited because we're going to review. Somebody was like, what does the doc type mean? Who? This is telling the browser, I'm giving you a document to read. Right at the beginning, I'm giving you a spoiler. This document, it's an HTML file. We got this. Everything's fine. And Mighty Unicorn is asking a question that I had no idea how to answer, is saying, hey, how would we accommodate multiple languages? And I should know this because I'm such a language weirdo. And we've got Carmen who said, whoa, 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 okay. Like, Carmen, did you just learn this as well? Carmen saying that you can actually set specifically the language attribute for any HTML element. So here, Carmen, I'm so sorry. How would I say website in Chilean Spanish? And Etta, you're not off the hook either. Could you please tell me how to say how to be the worst cat in Turkish? Oh gosh, and what's the two-letter code for Turkish? I'm rubbish. So I'm going to go ahead and Carmen says we can put the language attribute in any HTML element. So if I said so here we've set this to Chilean Spanish. So the language here for now would be English, not a problem. Sorry, Etta, how would I say how to be the worst cat in Turkish? But also, what's the two-letter country code for Turkey or two-letter language code for Turkish? My apologies. Oh, wow. So we've got Arabic, Tamil speakers. We've got Chilean Spanish speakers. I speak very poor Japanese and even worse Indonesian. So we had said that Arya's website is in English, but we're changing it to Chilean Spanish. So we don't need to change the language attribute here. That would be a lie. Here, how to be the worst cat, that's not in Spanish. That's a lie. That's English or depending on English US, maybe? Yeah, so I've just learned this for the first time, and we can set, oh, Kotukede. Oh, please remind me to learn Turkish sometime. I hear it's a very easy language and very relaxed. So we've all just learned in real time that you can set the language to different things at different stages, different individual elements. Gosh. So we've got in here a review, some notes I've made about the different parts of metadata. But now, I am so excited to talk to you about weird stuff. The only reason the web works, the only reason computer works are standards, because we can all agree on hey, here's how we process this data, or here's how we read this element. It's hard, huh? UTF-8 is something you set in your metadata that sets the character encoding. So being able to type characters on the web or on your computer or have them just work seems like it should be really easy. But wow, there are so many different languages, and those languages use so many different orthographies, so many different types of characters or ways of writing. And the big thing I'll say is right now, computers and the web don't know how to write and handle and process all of those language yet. Yeah. So there are a lot of languages that exist where folks don't have character encoding that includes their languages yet. Character encoding is your computer or your web browser taking the characters it sees, or the characters you write, or the characters it sends, and turning them into smaller pieces of data that it can process. Character encoding is the process of turning characters into bits and bytes of data in a way computers can understand. This means that your computer can read a character, process it, store it, and send it in a way that's the same across all computers. We'll get there in a second, I hope. And this is difficult because we don't need to know all of this in great detail. If you want to just take a nap now, just remember for 99.999% of your web development, you're going to want to set things to UTF-8. But if you want to see a bit more, and we're going to be almost done in a second. So if you have any questions about anything we've covered, go ahead and drop them in the chat and we'll get those sorted in just a second. So UTF-8 is a kit system for encoding characters that's really widely used across the web. By specifying on our website that that's what we're doing, we can make it more likely that our browsers can get, present, and understand the characters we've written to charm our website visitors. When we are thinking about character encoding in data, we've talked about bits and bytes. We don't need my cat taking a bath behind me. A bit is the smallest piece of data that your computer can process. And some of you may have heard of binary. Binary is usually represented with zeros and ones. And 1 bit of binary, 1 0 or 1 1, is a bit. It's the tiniest little chunk of information. A byte is the next largest chunk of information, and a byte is 8 bits. Characters in UTF-8 can be as small as 1 byte or as large as 4. And this is because some characters are a little bit more complex. Fantastic. Great, great, great. Dan's asking, cool, yes, UTF-8, but is UTF-8 only going to work for us if we write Latin-based language? If I want to write something in kanji, so if I want to use Japanese characters, or if I want to use simplified Chinese, or if I want to use Perso-Arabic, fantastic. Can I still use UTF-8? Yes, I promise you can. So if you want to use Japanese characters, UTF-8 will still sort you. I really appreciate it. It's such a good question. When we want to set the character set attribute to UTF-8, we're going to do that using a meta element. And if you recall correctly, boop, we're going to put that in the, oh gosh, that's wrong. We're going to put that in the head of our web page, not the header. Those are different things. And I'm going to make a note to change that in just a second. Change header to head. Gosh, I'm so sorry, team. The thing I would be really careful about is it's really easy to confuse. Oh, hello. It's really easy to think of character sets as setting a language. And it's not. By using UTF-8, we're saying, hey, I want you to use this common encoding that covers a bunch of different languages. If you do want to set the language on your website, the reason you'd set that is for people. If I set the language to English in my head of my website, what I'm trying to do is I'm saying, oh gosh, sorry, I've got my cat pushing the keyboard. What I'm saying is, hey, a bot for a search engine who's looking at my website, or a human who's going to be looking at my website, I'm letting you know that this website's going to be in English, just in case you were looking for a Spanish version of a website that has the same information. So setting the language sets expectation for search engines and people. Setting the UTF-8, setting the care set, is just setting how we're going to be able to encode those individual characters. Yeah. Oh gosh, I'm seeing a couple of questions. Sorry, I just saw one that I'm especially excited about. And y'all, I'm going to escape in just a minute to feed this very needy cat. So please, please, please let me know if you have any other questions. If you're shy, you can, oh, she's not shy. You can also bring them to um, just, ma'am, you can also bring them to Discord. So you've got somebody saying, oh, so setting the language attribute in our HTML element, can we think of that as accessibility? Hmm, hmm, hmm. Generally, accessibility is considered the practices that you apply to building a website that make them work better for not learners, users of different needs. And often we're talking about users who have different sort of handicaps, different medical needs. I'm not sure. So I think it might be debatable. Would we consider setting our language as an accessibility point? Would that, I think this might be a philosophical question. So it's the right thing to do because it helps set people's expectations. But philosophically, I'd want to sit and think about this a while. I'd like to consider setting your language appropriately as an accessibility point, but I think I'm going to go have a cup of tea and think about this a bit more. Rachel said maybe it might be more of localization. And localization's generally, for folks who haven't heard it, localization is the practice of making the same content available, not just translated, but meaningfully updated for folks in different areas, which can include, and often does, translation. Say, oh, we've got another philosophical point. Maybe, maybe we don't want to consider it accessibility, but just outreach, sort of best practices. And thank you all so much for coming on with me with this like very, very philosophical journey. So, less philosophically, let's talk about solo work that I'm going to ask you to do before we come back tomorrow. We go all the way up. I'm so sorry. Okay, so we whenever we start a new topic, like when we first start HTML, when we first start CSS, there's a lot of theory. I'm sorry. So I'm going to ask you to read 3 more theory, little theory sections and take notes. What are div elements and how should I use them? Spoiler, you should use div less than you think you should. Oh, unless you're brand new to the web and you don't know that people overuse div, in which case, please, best practices from the start, don't overuse div. We're going to learn about IDs and classes and when we should use them. And that's going to preview some CSS again. And also, what are HTML entities? Ooh, it sounds a little supernatural, huh? But I'm going to ask you to do a heck ton of work on your own, which is please go through all of the steps of a cat photo app if you can. There's a bunch. But also, I'm going to ask you to, this is not before tomorrow, because this is a little bit bigger. Please start working on build a recipe page. I'm so excited for this because so far we've been working on debug this, type this, ha 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 ha. And This is going to be asking you to make something yourself. Let's take a look at the example project. And the example project is, hey, here's how to make chocolate chip cookies. Somebody's taken a picture, they've written instructions. So we're going to ask you to, if you get this done before tomorrow, you've got more time and energy than me. Good on you. But just over the next few days. Yeah. If you feel like it, if you're especially excited to share, come and tell us in Discord or come and tell us in the chat if you join live about what recipe you decided to do because I'm super, super excited. Like, I'm a terrible cook and I love to cook. I would be especially excited to. Um, oh gosh, somebody just noticed a mistake on my website and I appreciate it. I'll fix that. Sorry. So I'm really, really delighted to see folks' recipe pages if you're excited to show them off. But really, you're never going to be asked to show your work. We're not allowed to pick favorites on the course, but folks for whom English is not your first language, please, 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 I would lovingly encourage you to write a recipe in the language that you're happiest working in. There's this huge temptation, and I'm saying this in English, which seems very reductive, to make everything English on the web. You do not have to flatten your experience to make something beautiful and silly. I'd love, love, love if you can get it done before tomorrow, beautiful. If you want to take a couple of days, there's no hard deadline on this. One advice I usually give is for this activity, you've got some user stories. These are things that must be included for your code to pass. What I often like to do is say, hey, let's just get something done. Let's get all of our tests passing. We're good, we're fine. But then you know exactly what I'm going to tell you. Once you've got all your tests passing, once you understand the basics, give me some creativity, please. Please get weird. Add some images, please, please, please have a silly little time. Right now, there's not a ton we can do with what we've learned. We're going to learn more and more, and your ability to get creative and weird is going to get wider and wider as we explore. Yeah, I will not see you tomorrow. Our brilliant and much better informed Carmen is going to be taking you through this. Thank you all very, very much. And no pressure. I would be silly excited to see some of your recipes. And if especially if an actually I'll promise that now. If anybody does a recipe where they've written the recipe in Indonesian, I promise I will try and cook it if I can find the ingredients. And my Indonesian's terrible. So I will let all of you go to have a very, very easy day. Goodbye, lovelies.